Hi friends, in our time together today, I'm introducing a Christmas carol that we've not played together before. It's a beautiful carol, O Holy Night. We'll follow the usual pattern. I'll walk us through the tune one phrase at a time so that you could really get that bite-sized introduction to the tune. Then, in the play along with Scott section, at a steady pace, I'll play through the entire tune without ornamentation and expression. Then I'll chat about any challenges I think you'll experience playing the tune. I'll then share some ornamentation and expression ideas, and then a bit of the history of the tune. Like I said, this is a lovely carol for us to play. And it is December. Well, it's December the 1st. And I thought it's a great time to introduce a carol we've not met before. For today's walkthrough, I'm using my Howard Low D with the balanced head. This was my very first low D and I still really love it. I'll put a link or a few links in the notes to this video as to where you could pick up a Howard if you'd like to. I'm also placing a link at the top of the notes to this video to the page on my website from which you could download a transcription for this beautiful carol. Now it's fascinating. You'll find the carol written in a number of time signatures, and I've selected 6/8 because that's, I believe, an older and more dominant time signature for the tune. Also, I've chosen the tune in 2 sharps for us to play. Key of D, our D whistle, and it's a little easier to play that way. You can play it in other keys, but since I'm introducing it on a D whistle, I'm sharing a D transcription. So anyway, let me jump right in and walk us through the tune, one phrase at a time. All right, That's the whole tune. And yes, you did notice that I played a G sharp. We'll talk about that in a moment. Let me walk through the entire tune without ornamentation or expression in the Play Along with Scott section. Alrighty, that is the entire tune. It's kind of hard to play it without ornamenting and expressing it because it flows so beautifully. Anyway, let's chat about some challenges I think you're going to experience. I did mention that in the middle of the tune, excuse me, you have to hit a G sharp. The G sharp is you half hole, as it's called, the third hole. And that is you cover the first two, and then you see how my fingers kind of sort of on and sort of off that third hole. You can do it in a couple of ways, but that's my preference, is to just lift a bit of my finger until I hear it. Remember I've said you can get there by start with a G, and then just slowly pick up bits of your finger until you hear G sharp, which is halfway between G and A. And once you find it, try and find it again. And then it's good to be able to play that. Some other challenges, in some ways I've heard people describe this as a reasonably simple tune. I agree, but the notes are simple, the flow may be a challenge, because you're really having to get into almost this seamless expression where you're doing some octave movement and you're going up to some of the higher notes. F sharp is the highest really in the transcription, but if you do some of what some people do that I'll talk about in the ornamentation section, you're actually going to go higher, and that's going to cause you some issues if you're not comfortable with that. And so you want to do you're going to have to learn some breath control. You're going to have to work on smooth note transitions. This is a beautiful tune for us to deepen that skill set. So please dive into this, even if you're not a carol singer or player, because this tune will help you grow your skills. So let's think about ornamentation and expression. I normally don't hear this excessively ornamented, but you can do what you want. Because you've got repeated notes. You could get into some vibrato there, or light tonguing to differentiate between those if you don't want a harder ornament. And so think of your breathing as part of your ornamentation. Think of your pauses as part of your ornamentation and expression. So get into that. Get into some of the holds, and some of the held notes will be, like I said, good vibrato. You might want to do a gentle slide here and there. An interesting thing, a lot of people play through the whole tune, and then they get to that section. You can look up the words if you don't know them, but you get to the fall on your knees section. Fall on your knees. Oh yeah, I was singing in a different key than I was playing. Then a lot of folks, for an emotive ending, will go back and play that again. And then instead of going to the F sharp, go to the second octave A. And then it's also good to put a bit of an upward run in a couple of those places. So anyway, mess around with that. Listen to a number of folks who are playing the tune and see what you're thinking. Now, it's a reasonably straightforward tune, but I still in a couple of days want to share one of my practice sessions on a low and a high whistle because I want to work on where I want to do that. I'm feeling a run up, and I know a lot of people do it in a couple of traditional places, and I really kind of want to experiment with that and see where I land on that, because again, it's your expression. Now, if you're playing for someone singing, that's a different story, and there are some other things you could do. But most of the time, we're sitting around the house playing, and that's a delight. Let's think about the history of the tune before I send you off to practice. Download the music and tabs. Take a look at the Howard if you've not purchased one ever and you love it. But the history of the tune, it's an interesting older tune. You can read more about it. There are, depending upon the story, there are a few variations you're going to see. But it was 1843, and I'm looking at my notes here off to my left. And my French is bad. So yes, French origins. In 1843, Placide Cappeau was a young merchant in a small French town, and he had a gift for writing poetry. It is said he's not particularly religious, but I read other accounts that say that he was. So I don't know, because different accounts. But anyway, a priest approached him asking him to write a poem to celebrate a carol, a Christmas poem, to celebrate the renovation of the church's organ. And that's pretty cool. Anyway, then, so that was 1843. And then in 1847, the friend of Placide, Adolphe Adam, composed music to go with the poem. And he was quite an accomplished and popular music critic and composer, primarily operas and a few other things. But he composed this tune. And the carol very quickly became very popular. And the funny thing is, it Placide, the person that wrote the poem, started to take more socialist leanings, and became, I think he may have come out as a socialist. I'm not 100% sure how to what's the best phrasing for that, from the middle of the 19th century, and the Catholic Church wasn't excited about that. And then some rumors started, whether they're true or not, we don't really know, that his friend Adolphe Adam was Jewish, and the Catholic Church wasn't excited about that. And so they tried to kind of not have the tune played. But this carol was so beautiful and so popular, everybody still wanted it because it was great, and it was well centered. It had a good message, and the people just loved it. And so, and after a few years, the Catholic Church changed its mind because it's a beautiful, popular carol. Anyway, you'll find it also became very popular, like all over the world, quite quickly, because this was a period where people were traveling and music was traveling with them, and everybody resonated with this gorgeous, gorgeous carol. I hope you like it, my friends. If you're brand new and checking us out because of the introduction of this carol, please subscribe and join our great community of folks learning to play the whistle together. And I also, I should have said this, I've not, hit that little bell notification, because that lets you know when a new video comes out, because, sometimes, you might not want to watch every video, but if you're learning, you don't want to miss something you don't want to miss. And so hit that little bell notification, and that'll keep you informed of what's going on the channel. Until next time, my friends, this is Scott Shade. Happy whistling!